Hi, Charity. Welcome. It's a pleasure to connect with you. And I've known you for a relatively short time, but I know you're such an enthusiastic parent and you love helping other children as well. So thanks for taking the time today to share your ideas on parenting.
Well, thank you for having me here today, Minesh. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So I know the times are different, right? Things have changed a lot for parents and how we were when we were children, what parents had to do and what is going on today. Now, I have a couple of beautiful kids, so tell me a little bit about how old are your kids?
So they are my oldest daughter is 7, and then my youngest son, he is 5.
Awesome. And Josh and Riley, correct?
Riley and Lucas.
Riley and Lucas, sorry. Riley and Lucas. So Lucas is the boy. So fun, fantastic. And do you homeschool as well, you said?
Yes, yeah. So I've been homeschooling for the past 3 years.
So just to get started, why do you what is your driving reason for homeschooling?
Um, there's just so much going into the public schools nowadays. Um, Really, it's all about indoctrination. And teaching them things that they're way too young to learn about yet. Um, what I've seen is that kids in public school lose their innocence way too early, and they can't just, enjoy being kids anymore. So that was one. And then public schools have also become very dangerous. And that's just one less, pressure that I want is having to worry about, if they're going to come home safe or not. So that's one of the biggest issues. I've also noticed that, most of the time they say kids need to go to school in order to become socialized. Whereas I've seen that most public school kids, yeah, they're around people all the time, but they can't hold a conversation with an adult. They have no opinions of their own. It's all about, following the crowd. A lot of them are very timid, no confidence in themselves, etc. So with homeschooling, it allows a whole different environment to where, my kids have no issues, talking to adults. They're very inventive, creative, constantly. Riley's my entrepreneur. She's always trying to find things to sell. So it just really changes how they grow up, I believe.
Very true. I mean, it's interesting. And obviously, this podcast is not necessarily about promoting homeschooling, but obviously, you do,
Right.
I do, Pastor Tracy does, as an example. And we have our own reasons for doing that. And I think parenting during challenging times, the number one thing in my mind is how much can I control the influences in their life, right? And I think the world has changed a lot. Like you said, children losing innocence much. I didn't allow my children to watch TV live in the beginning stages because even if it is Disney or Nick at Night, it still would have
Yeah.
components that I would not support and agree with. And interestingly enough, Charity, in my case, my children were allowed to watch Food Network as much as they wanted. It is interesting what has happened. My daughter is a phenomenal baker.
That's
Like
awesome.
he is phenomenal. Like yesterday, she made macaroon, snowman shape, and all that kind of stuff. She is baking fantastic stuff all the time. My challenge is to keep it out of my hands and mouth. You know what I'm saying? Because she does such a
Right.
good job of doing it. And she does it for others. She does it for fun. It's not
Uh-huh.
that somebody's making her do it. But whether it is directly or indirectly by watching Food Network. And my daughter also started working at my in-laws restaurant, Kim's Chinese restaurant, at a young age. So she was exposed to restaurant food quite early in life. And maybe that's one of the reasons which has been a blessing. So, which is this, I'm like, oh yeah, that was interesting. So as you talk to parents, because one of the areas that you are really trying to help parents is to help children overcome, maybe they have certain anxieties in a certain therapeutic way that you can do that. Tell me a little bit about the ranch you are starting now, and you are, started with the licensing of your business so you can help other parents. Tell me a little bit about that.
So it's a youth ranch, and it's going to be focusing towards Starting out, it's going to be focusing towards those in foster care or that have been in foster care and have suffered complex trauma. And complex trauma is a big issue. And there's actually a foster care crisis because the kids in foster care are coming out of foster care and they have all this trauma, which doesn't allow them to enter the adulthood life and be able to actually cope. So let's see, for example, of complex trauma is anything like sexual abuse, physical abuse, mental abuse, neglect, anything like that. Sorry. It actually stops the brain from developing correctly. So these kids with complex trauma actually have, they're more of in a survival state of mind. All they care about is what they're eating today, what they're going to be doing today. It's all focused today because that was their whole goal, from little bitty, is to be able to survive the day. So they can't handle problem solving or even thinking about the future. They can't regulate their emotions, all different kinds of things like that. So it impacts in how they become as adults. So they can't, it causes a lot of issues with like marriages because they can't maintain a relationship because they don't know. All they know about is the here and now, and when problems come up, they don't know how to problem solve. And it also affects how they raise their own children. And a huge majority of foster kids who become parents, their kids enter the system as well because they don't know how to be parents. They pass on the same type of trauma onto their kids because that's all they know. So it's definitely something that's definitely needed to help these kids overcome their challenges.
So when you say about that, the process, without going into details of the process, give me like a 2-minute version of how does your process help?
Okay, so it's based upon one mentor, one child, one horse, 1 hour a week, 4 times a month, and it's a 10-month course. So all the kids that come in, they're given an assessment. So that's done with the parents or foster parents. So that's when we learn about everything about them, what kind of trauma they've been through, etc. And through that, we can develop a specific plan of care per child. And it's all color-coded so that the activities that they participate in are all according to what they need, what life skills they need to develop. It's also based upon the fact of mentorship is, according to research, the one most valuable thing a child can have in their life is one dependable, constant adult in their life, a healthy adult. That makes a difference in every child. And so by having that mentor with them, they're able to start creating trust, a bond with them to where they can start to heal from their trauma. Because until they learn that I matter, nothing we try to teach them will make a difference. Because due to their trauma, it's actually a worthlessness that is felt like to the deepest core of their being. And it stays there until they learn I matter. So until then, you can't help a child in any way until they learn that they have value.
Isn't that amazing what you are saying? And I agree with you. Every challenge in the world starts with somebody feeling that they don't really matter, right? Okay, the moment you feel you matter in a positive way, and what you have to offer can help other people, and people are open to receiving what you have to offer because what you have is valuable, and you have the knowledge, the skill to communicate your value, When we combine the two, I matter, what I say matters, and I know how to communicate to people so they can see that what I do matters, most of the problems will go away just
Right.
automatically, because number one is you know you matter, but also you feel you can be heard. And we
Right.
combine the two, the challenges, and that's what your looks like your program provides people, children in this case as a youth ranch, that they can actually over a time period feel connected, in this case with a horse as an example, with a therapy process or whatever is being used. So they start valuing themselves, and as they value themselves, they feel better, well-adjusted citizens in the world. Would that be a fair way to summarize?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So if somebody's interested, how would they get hold of you, Charity?
So they can get hold of me through our Facebook page, and it's called Freedom Reins Youth Ranch. Reins is spelled Reins, as like a horse's reins.
Yeah.
But they can message me through there. My number's on there as well, so you can call, text, email. The email's on there as well.
And how soon do you think your ranch will be operational so people can start planning to use your services?
So my goal is this coming February.
Okay.
It's a pretty big goal. But everything's slowly falling into place. And as long as we get everything done, then at least a soft opening in February. That's the goal.
Charity, what a pleasure. And you are located in Ardmore, Oklahoma, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. So if people want to come to you, they have to physically come to you. So it's not
Right.
it's not Zoom video calls, right? So
Right.
like what we are doing today. Well, fantastic. Is there any last tip you want to share with parents who might be thinking about, how do I help my children?
So one of the biggest things that I've learned as being a parent is how important it is for us to model the correct behavior we want to see in our kids. If we're unthankful, or if we're hateful, or we have no problem lying, that all passes on to them. If we're not respectful to other people, then they don't see that, and so they're not going to be respectful to you, because there's nothing modeled. And it's important too for us as parents to be respectful towards our kids as well. So I don't know how it is there in Florida, but here, yes ma'am, no ma'am is a big thing. But I can't expect them to always say it to me if I'm not willing to, say yes ma'am. I'm not obeying them. But it's just everything you want to teach them, you've got to model it towards them as well.
Yeah. Pastor Tracy was also talking about the stories about modeling correct behavior, and I can agree with that. It's easier to say, do as I say, not as I do, because
Right.
emotionally, physically, it's easier, right? It's like, oh, yeah, I drink beer, but, you should not. Well, I don't drink alcohol, so I'm just giving that as an example. I don't smoke cigarettes or any of that stuff. But, it's easier to say, do this the way I say, but not like, oh, I like watching TV, but you should not watch TV, stuff like that. And it's harder. But, doing the right thing, like I wake up in the morning and I go walk and then do some exercise on a daily basis and stuff like that. I'm going through the scriptures. It's like the process that I want to do, which I want my children to do as well. So thank you for reminding people to model the right behavior, because it's easier to follow somebody who's doing it rather than somebody who's just talking about it.
Right. Yes.
Very definitely true. Well, what a pleasure again, Charity. I look forward to continuing our conversation as your ranch grows into real existence in the next couple of months here. And we can have you again, and where you can show some pictures of the horses and the places and stuff like that.
Yes, I would enjoy that.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you for having me.